Thanks for tuning in to this WVU Hoops edition of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports Mountaineer Nation. Sorry that I've been away for over a week's time. I know I like to say tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week, and I have a lot of fun doing it. A couple of things held me out from last week, I got to be honest. Working on some things behind the scenes that I'm really trying to hopefully bring you a special interview sometime soon. I'm working on it, but don't know if it's necessarily going to happen, but trying to work those back channels to potentially make that happen. So, something interesting for you there. And then just last week with the TCU game, the Oklahoma State game, I didn't know when it was necessarily right to come on and kind of follow up with what happened after the Utah game when I made my last video. So I kind of wanted to see it through to the BYU game. And of course, our Mountaineers come up on top with their second ranked victory of the season. And it's going to make for an interesting last week of the regular season. So thanks for tuning in. Please like this button so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube, and would love to have you a subscriber to my channel. I actually, this past Saturday, was down at Deep Creek Lake, Maryland, doing some skiing at Wisp Resort, and ran into a Mountaineer fan, saw me wearing my David Sills jersey and Mountaineer hoodie underneath, and we got to talking, and so hopefully that gentleman subscribed to my channel, and if you're tuning in for the first time, it was a pleasure meeting up with you. So talking a little bit of Mountaineer athletics, it just goes to prove that, man, Mountaineer Nation is just starved for a winner. I mean, not only did I probably ran into 5 people during the 3.5 hours I was out there. Was like, is that a David Sills jersey? Oh my gosh, I just missed those days. So that was really funny, and love running into Mountaineer Nation everywhere I can. So let's talk about this basketball team. Tied for 8th now in the Big 12 standings, which if you take a look back at the Big 12 preseason media poll, they picked West Virginia 11th. So it's impressive already. Enough of this feat going into the last week of the regular season. I know anything can happen, but West Virginia will at least exceed its preseason expectation, according to the media, by finishing better than 10th or higher. But of course, West Virginia, I think, wants to finish inside the top 8 of the final Big 12 standings. That would mean that the Mountaineers could earn a double or a bye for the Big 12 tournament. The top 4 teams get a double bye. No way West Virginia is going to get that. But let's just take a look at kind of where they are as of here Monday night. I know this video is going to unveil on Tuesday, but 58 in the net, 59th in KenPom. They're, according to Joe Lenardi, who's pretty spot on usually with his bracketology, in the next 4 out category. But what a win this past Saturday, 79-71 over the BYU Cougars, who were playing without Richie Saunders, so could have made the difference in a potential 8-point game. But West Virginia up by double digits at halftime, scoring 40 points in one half. Whoa, who is this team? And then just, despite a comeback in the second half by BYU, held the game. It was a 72-69 game late. Brennan Lorian comes up with a huge block on BYU's AJ Dibansa. Chance Moore coming away with a huge steal. Knock your free throws down, which have been just a constant trait of frustration for this team throughout this regular season. But for a crowd of over 13,000 in the Hope Coliseum Saturday, I'm glad that everybody left satisfied. It was a beautiful Saturday weather-wise, so I hope everybody was able to enjoy the festivities in Morgantown. I was able, actually, when I was on the lift skiing, tune into the West Virginia baseball game against Kennesaw State, and I will be talking baseball very soon. I want to give it another week, see how this next week's worth of non-conference action plays out. Seems like some of the games against Radford and Columbia, just a little restructuring of the schedule. West Virginia instead playing Marshall this upcoming Wednesday. I don't know if West Virginia is going to get any games in this upcoming week with the crap weather that's supposed to be in Morgantown. But let's stick with basketball here. I know my thoughts are all over my head. So just a few thoughts on Saturday's game against BYU. Brennan Lorian made some money. Wow, the way that he went up against AJ Dibansa for 40 minutes, played arguably his best game in a Mountaineer uniform, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. Brendan Lorient's going to be a player that, like, I wish that West Virginia would have had for 4 years. I know that we're getting him at the, kind of the peak of his college career, but my goodness, the kid just plays his heart out every single game. Puts his he's not a very emotional player, so he just able to take the body blows that he's had over the course of this season, fight through them. West Virginia can count on him in the post. It's really West Virginia's only true post scorer, who are upperclassmen on this team right now, because I just don't trust Harlan Obioha. That's not to take anything away from DJ Thomas. In fact, I wanted to talk about DJ Thomas, arguably his best game this past Saturday, with 13 points, including 2 threes on the day, but not playing starters minutes. What would West Virginia do without Brendan Lorient is what I'm meaning to say. Due to the injury of Jackson Fields, haven't seen it until like 2 minutes played all year long from Abraham Oyedir. So West Virginia is really just down to that 3-man forward rotation between those guys. So Lorient having to play major minutes, and he came up strong in a major way this past Saturday. I don't know if it was just the cornrows that gave him like double the ability out there, looking like a young Steven Jackson or something like that. Allen Iverson maybe. If he was playing guard, but just Brendan Lorient is going to be one of those guys that, like, you just think back, I feel like, in Mountaineer lore, and I think he's in pretty good company. Now, of course, not in the era, I feel like, of a Kevin Jones, but, I mean, we didn't get to see the best, and the season was still really good by Devin Williams. Don't get me wrong, about 10 years ago, or however 10, 12 years ago when that window was. But I think Brendan Lorient is proving he can do it on both sides of the floor, and he is really that true enforcer that West Virginia has desperately needed. You wish he could get a little more help down low, but with what Honor Huff is doing from the outside, Brendan Lorient is doing it on the inside. So it was really nice to see that distribution was a little bit better in this game of scoring inside the paint. And man, I just continue to beat this drum on Chance Moore, and I just don't know when we're going to finally see the switch, if we see the switch. And I'm glad that now this has become just a narrative that people have caught on. I feel like even in the national guys who are calling multiple games of Chance Moore's for the season, it's just like there's nobody who drives the ball better than Chance Moore on this team and can get into the hole and take contact and draw fouls. But it's just, oh my gosh, thankfully he shot better than his 50-some% average this past Saturday. But my goodness, if I was Coach Hodge, like, he has all the athleticism, he has all of the ability. Can you get a hypnotist or something, or is no one working with him on his free throws? I mean, I saw a picture on Twitter earlier this morning with him shooting, and I swear it's like he has his shooting hand up and his other hand in front of the ball when he's about to release, and it's erratic. Oh my gosh, that's the only logical explanation to me as to why he's not being given more minutes than Trayson Eaglestaff at this point in the season. I mean, obviously West Virginia only has about an eight-man rotation, so both are going to see minutes. But it makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, if you have Jasper Floyd, who is aggressive when he really needs to be, not wants to be. Chance Moore is just a bull in the china shop wanting to drive to the hole. So if you're going to count on those two guards from the outside, same with Amir Jenkins, who does like to drive more, I really like Amir Jenkins' game, especially here since we've entered Big 12 play, playing better, I feel like, than a freshman tag. Same with DJ Thomas. But it's just like with Chance Moore, if you're putting out your best five, and I guess that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's not necessarily who starts the game. Like, I mean, we can remember all the times when Coach Huggins would start Issa Ahmad and it would only still maybe play about 10 minutes. He'd play and bring somebody else onto the floor. But instead, I just hope that down the stretch here, major minute stretches when West Virginia needs to get things rolling offensively, that Chance Moore can be in there, that he's continuing to draw contact, and he makes his free throws at the line, because that's where he's going to score in double digits and be a major threat for this team down the stretch. So starting it off on Tuesday here, they're taking on Kansas State at Kansas State, the Bramblage Center. Kansas State's lost their last 3, including 10 of their last 11 games. West Virginia won the first contest 59-54 at home on January 27th. Remember, that game was an ugly Tuesday night contest after everybody in the whole East Coast got dumped on like that weekend with snow. So West Virginia was trying everything to get fans out to that game that upcoming Tuesday night. And West Virginia just played so slow. So with it being a senior night, I know that Kansas State's kind of mailed it in for the season, but you have to play the game. You have to play a regular season finale against Kansas, then the Big 12 tournament. So they're not just going to roll over by any means. They're going to go out there and compete for 40 minutes, maybe not as hard as some of these other teams on the bubble who are trying to secure their spot for the March Madness tournament. So West Virginia's got to go out there, haven't played well on the road in totality for the season. So to win one on the road, you need to, all these games are must-wins at this point in time. But just starting it off with the schedule, talking about Kansas State. With UCF lost this past Saturday at home by 1 to Baylor. They play Oklahoma State at home on Tuesday. That's their senior game. They're currently 1 spot ahead of West Virginia in the Big 12 standings, along with TCU, who TCU would have the tiebreaker over West Virginia for 6th in the Big 12 because of the head-to-head victory that the Horned Frogs had 2 weekends ago. So if that's the case, if West Virginia can beat Kansas State, beat UCF, and those are not guarantees, especially UCF, who it took a major, both of these games it took comebacks to win, but in different forms and fashions, and West Virginia did so against UCF on the road. Now they're playing on the road at Kansas State. West Virginia is going to want to, like I said, stay inside the top 8 of the final Big 12 standings. And I think that West Virginia needs to win those 2 regular season games, and I'll go out and say it. I think they need to win 2 in the Big 12 tournament. If they can get to, what would that be? So with 4 more wins, that would put West Virginia at 21-12 for the season, and I think that would take West Virginia beating a top 4 team in the Big 12 standings. To get to that, then 10-8 in the regular season with a Big 12 record, get to 8-7 in quad 1 games for this season, 3 ranked wins, because that'd have to come against one of the top 4 seeds, I feel like, in a, quarterfinals matchup. Then maybe I think West Virginia receives the mercy of the NCAA after what happened last year and gets into a first 4 game. I'm kind of, if you call me gun shy, or I don't know what's necessarily the right word. I always err on the side that the powers that be in college sports are going to screw West Virginia over. We've had enough history of that, I feel like. It's part of the Bowden curse. That whenever you leave the determination into the hands of the officials, that they are going to say no more so than they are going to say yes. And we saw that proved last year when West Virginia was passed over for North Carolina. So if they go on a tear here, I would say UCF would be a quad 1 win. If they play in, say, an 8-9 matchup or something like that, or if who knows if they get to a 7-10, and that's another quad 1 team that they'd be playing, and West Virginia can get that win, that'd be nice. If it would be BYU once again and get another ranked win, I just think that West Virginia has proved it's pretty mid with the losses in the non-conference to Clemson, to Xavier, to Ohio State, and then losing those matchups early on in January. Iowa State, Houston, Arizona. I know that a lot of those were on the road, And I'm not trying to really bitch and moan here. Like, I hope that Mountaineer Nation doesn't like take it that way. I said from the onset, from this past summer, the goal would be to get to the NCAA tournament. And if a few things broke West Virginia's way, especially earlier on, like, I don't want to just like rail in hindsight against the boys. But if you would have done more in that, especially that non-conference, came out on the right side of that win against Clemson, came out on the right side of that overtime loss to Ohio State, you wouldn't be in this place. I really think that, again, media was picking him too low. Listening to some other WVU content creators, I think they were picking this team a little too low. I think saying that this team didn't, have the talent, or Coach Hodge put it together late and all that blah, blah, blah. I think that's kind of underselling this team. I think there is talent on this team. I've been pretty constant with that. I feel like through the ups and the downs, and even just a few weeks ago when I said that I think that West Virginia ultimately isn't an NCAA tournament team because they just have too many warts in the resume. When you lose to a Baylor at home when they were really struggling, then losing to Utah, like, those are just things that NCAA tournament teams can't afford to do. But getting to the tournament would be a successful feat. And I still think that ultimately it's so close. It's really close, in my opinion, from them reaching a point, like just right now, finishing ahead of the preseason poll of West Virginia being picked 11th, I feel like is a win for Coach Hodge in this program. Again, because I think if you kind of undersell it and are satisfied with West Virginia not reaching the NCAA tournament, with what West Virginia invested into this program, going and getting Honor Huff, going and getting Trace and Eaglestaff, the NIL committed to them. I mean, Coach Brendan Lorient would have had options. I know that he and Jasper Floyd were very dedicated and very loyal to Coach Hodge, but I mean, they could have had their options to go elsewhere. Getting Chance Moore as well was pretty high quality pickup. I think he could start or play more minutes for other Big 12 teams or other teams across the country. So that's what I mean to say is I think like and I know that would be kind of moving the goalposts, I feel like, for Coach Hodge than it would be against Coach Rodriguez. And I don't want to get down that rabbit hole of comparing the two similar roster rebuild scenarios from 2024, the end of the 2024-25 season, and then going into this past fall into this current basketball season. I don't think I want to do that, but it's just to say that I think that Coach Hodge and his staff built this roster well. I think I think there have been some players, and I'll talk about them when we finally wrap up this regular season, who didn't necessarily live up to expectations, at least with 90% of the story written. I know if 10% can make up for the other 90%, if these two players in particular that come to my head that I'll talk about really show up in this last regular season stretch and then into the Big 12 tournament, win 2 games, I think I can get to the NCAA tournament. I think I can change a whole lot. But that's needless to say that I think that the players and coaches very much all of them adjusting to major level competition. And I talked about this over the summer, that everybody was pretty much stepping up to the big bright lights of the Big 12, and it's been to varying degrees of success. So that's where I would just say, with this last stretch, 2 regular season games and the Big 12 tournament, that West Virginia is close. I still think they're on the outside looking in, but they take care of they kind of blew a lot of their chance, I felt like, with the way that they performed last week, with losing that Utah game, with losing the TCU game, with losing the Oklahoma State game. But now winning a ranked matchup at BYU, it doesn't make up for those 3 losses, but it still puts you, I think, with hope. And hope is a dangerous thing. So it's going to come down, again, to the final shot. to the finer buzzer sounds for this Mountaineer team if they can put together a resume that's worthy that the NCAA tournament will have them. So how you feeling, Mountaineer Nation? Are you still, clearly by 13,000 people showing up this past Saturday at the Hope Coliseum to see the boys play the BYU Cougars. And I'm sure there was a little bit of intrigue to see AJ Dybansa. And again, great weather. Again, they're not truly out of it. But after losing 3 consecutive games, I could have seen a world in which Mountaineer Nation was kind of, let's move on. But there's clearly still investment, I feel like, from the fan base. Even though there might be a lot of people like me who are, satisfied, but would be really feeling as if goals would be achieved. And these would be high enough goals that earn a lot of respect, in my opinion. Again, I don't say all of this for this video to be like, I'm questioning Coach Hodge. I think that might have gotten misconstrued, at least on Facebook, whenever I posted my last video about Utah. I was honestly just perplexed. I was just perplexed of why it seemed as if there were so many Mountaineer fans who were just absolutely livid about West Virginia's loss to Utah. 2 weeks ago. And it wasn't to question Coach Hodge. It was really just to say that I think he's learned a lot. I think, again, varying degrees of success for this team, some frustration, some growing pains, but you can't have growing pains when you have so many seniors who are just one-year players. So it's a program, not just a team, that's going through growing pains and adjustment. And I think this could be a great accomplishment for the ages, I feel like, for a program who's gone through 4 coaches in 4 years to reach the NCAA tournament in his first year. But again, with the investment that was put into this roster, now again, the injury situation to Jackson Fields, I really do think has made a difference in at least a game or two for this program, or for this team this season. But I think they're right there, and they could potentially do it. We've seen when West Virginia, stranger things have happened, I feel like, in the Kansas City tournament. I feel like not necessarily for Kansas, but like West Virginia's gone into that sometimes, like even last year, lost a game that they absolutely should have and never saw coming against Colorado. So anything can happen. If they catch fire in their first matchup of let's say a 7-10 matchup or an 8-9 game, and then they go into their next one and just, shoot the lights out and play really good defense and catch another team napping who's just not taking it all that seriously, moving on for the big dance, then who knows, maybe just the luck falls the Mountaineers' way. So that's what I'm hoping for. So how you feeling, Mountaineer Nation? Leave your comments here on YouTube. Please like this video so more Mountaineer fans can see it, as I said, and love to have you a subscriber to my channel. Continue to follow this basketball situation. Might come on later this week. Otherwise, I'm going to give it through the weekend with the baseball team, and we're going to catch up, and we're going to backtrack about this past month or so since the beginning of opening day with the baseball team, and catch you up with what's going on with the team on the diamond. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hail West Virginia. Let's go.